Hi, welcome to the channel. You're watching the Christchurch Review of Books, and I'm Kerry. Today, a book about a kind of local celebrity here in Christchurch. He's become a national celebrity in New Zealand, but he's best known in the local area. So I was a little surprised when Joe Bennett put out a memoir. I'm probably underestimating how famous he really is in this country. Now, Joe Bennett became a local celebrity here in the Christchurch region back in the 1990s, where he started to appear in news stories as like the spokesperson for educators or education. He was a teacher at the time. Then he went on to appear on local TV and radio. Back in those days, at one point we had 2 local TV stations just in the city. Things have pretty much changed now. The TV stations are pretty much all national affairs. And he started writing books, and as so many of these local celebrities do, they end up becoming an opinion column writer for newspapers and magazines. Now, that's where I kind of parted way with my interest in him, because most of the opinion column writers of the time were kind of very reactionary individuals who were trying to create controversy and so on, and that kind of thing really didn't appeal to me. Kind of lost track with his output from then on. Then in recent years, some of his non-fiction books have been turned into radio programs narrated by himself, and one that stuck in my mind is where he buys up a multi-pack of cheap underwear from a local department store, and he basically traces it back all along the chain to its origin in mainland China, goes to mainland China and investigates the cultural and market and industrial changes which came to be to create the whole supply chain of underwear for Western countries, basically. And it was quite fascinating and illuminating. So when I saw that he had a memoir out, I took a chance of it and bought a copy to see exactly what I was missing. So this is From There to Here, his memoir. It came out in June. It is a really interesting and entertaining book. He was born in the UK. His family originally came from Northern England, but he was brought up in Southeast England, apparently a small town or village or whatever you want to call it, just over the hill from the seaside town of Brighton. Doesn't have a very high opinion of Brighton itself. It's kind of like a dreary, stony beach full of tourists half the time and dead the rest. He recounts a childhood full of adventures, playing cricket. It seems to be one of his early loves, fishing and all his school days. He has a really vivid memory of his school time, his friends and enemies. There's a lot of stories of bullies and points in the school days where he was doing the bullying, was making fun of other children, making hurtful comments. He doesn't seem to be very proud of that now. Then we follow the rest of his family. There's a couple of family tragedies, the death of his older brother, who becomes estranged from his parents and doesn't meet a very happy end, and eventually the death of his father as well. He kind of turns into a bit of a mopey, self-involved teenager. When he's interested, he implies himself really well at school. He's not stupid. He gets high marks when he wants to, but he kind of gets self-involved, and he's not very proud of the way he treats his friends and family at this part of his life. And looking back, he thinks he treats everyone bad, and he's kind of ashamed of it. He drifts a little way through his life and doing like menial jobs until in his 20s he takes a chance and gets a job teaching English in Spain. Now, one of his ambitions is to travel the world. He's got this kind of half-formed idea of going to Australia and making his way slowly across the continents to get there. So like he takes up a school English teaching position in Spain, and there's a lot of description of his misadventures there, and learning to be a teacher with no training and all that type of thing. Travels around Spain, basically hitchhiking. Then he gets another job, similar job in France, travels around France and Europe hitchhiking, and it's just kind of the travel travel log aspect of things, it makes up quite a big part of this book, and it's probably the best written type. He's really good doing the travel thing. We learn a lot about his impressions of various countries. He's got a great memory for times and places and people. So the teaching jobs in Europe kind of turn into a career against his better judgment. He kind of sees himself falling into a teaching career, and he sees that as like an impending doom. He tries to avoid it, but everywhere he goes, the jobs that he gets involves teaching. And another big aspect of this book was something that I wasn't aware of, is Joe Bennett's struggles with his sexuality. He finds early on that he's attracted to what he finds beautiful young men, other men. He struggles with this a bit. He has some furtive sexual experiences with the opposite sex, but he's always more interested in the men. It's not something that I knew about him earlier on. In my memory, he always kind of deflected questions about relationships and said something like he's got a couple of dogs instead. But anyway, he's very upfront about it in this book, and it's clear it's caused him a lot of heartache. It resulted in a lot of like long-term, lifelong friendships, but few kind of romantic connections for him. Of course, there's probably a lot he's not saying in this book about actual relationships. He probably doesn't want to embarrass anyone about that. Anyway, so he travels further, ends up in North America, teaching in Canada, I believe. And then he kind of like hitchhikes his way around northwest, United States, travels to places like Las Vegas and so on, and we get all his impressions of that. And then he ends up here in New Zealand. He basically writes away asking if someone's got a job for him, and one of them actually replies, and that's a Christ College here in Christchurch. He ends up in New Zealand, and that's where the book kind of suddenly, abruptly ends. I really would have liked to have more of his impressions of this country. Instead, we get like kind of 4 pages of his travels in New Zealand, basically where he has the impression that there's like a ferry to Australia and that type of thing. He's not really knowledgeable about this part of the world at all. Travels to Australia, has a look around there, and then he comes back to New Zealand, and it ends with him buying a house in the seaside town, well, harbourside town I should say, of Littleton, which is basically just over the hill from me. So overall, it's an interesting story. It tells you more about the man than I ever expected to learn. I enjoyed it. He's very witty and funny, but also there's a lot of somber reflection. It's clear, like I said earlier, he's not very proud of himself as a younger man, and he's kind of like wants to make amends for that, and he's got a lot of friends from his earlier days he tried to keep in touch with, and a lot that he's lost touch with, and he's kind of bittersweet about that. Yeah, so that is From There to Here by Joe Bennett. If you're interested in Joe Bennett, I'm sure that local viewers will have more of an idea of him than the international ones, but worth a read. It's very, like I said, humorous, but at the same time soul-searching, heartfelt, whatever you like to call it. It's a memoir, so you know that what that type of thing is. It means that it's not a blow-by-blow autobiography. It's a memoir of stories that he remembers from his past. So that is From There to Here. Okay, we'll be back shortly with yet another review.